the big story of the day, 50% tariffs from tomorrow. You have US, which has gone ahead and notified the additional 25% tariff on India from the 27th of August, and this will be effective 9:30 a.m. Indian Standard Time. And this is just one day before US President Donald Trump's 50% tariff hike that takes effect on Indian exporters. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also delivered a resolute message from Gujarat. He addressed a public gathering, vowed unwavering support for India's farmers, small businesses, dairy producers, declaring no matter how much pressure comes, we will find a way out. Let's quickly first listen in.
मेरे छोटे छोटे दुकानदार भाई बहनों से कहूंगा, मेरे किसान भाइयों से कहूंगा, मेरे पशुपालक भाई बहन से कहूंगा, और मैं गांधी की धरती पे से बोल रहा हूं, मेरे देश के लघु उद्यमी हो, किसान हो, पशुपालक हो, हर किसी के लिए मैं आपको बार बार वादा करता हूं, मोदी के लिए आपके हित सर्वोपरि है। मेरी सरकार लघु उद्यमियों का, किसानों का, पशुपालकों का कभी भी अहित नहीं होने देंगी। दबाव कितना ही क्यों ना आए, हम झेलने की अपनी ताकत बढ़ाते जाएंगे।
Pressure may rise, but we will bear it. That's the word coming in from Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Joining us to discuss further on this, we have Mr. Pawan Kumar G, President, Seafood Exporters Association of India, Ravikant Kapur, who is from the Vice President at FIEO, R.K Vij, who's the President Emeritus, the Textile Association of India, and Mr. Indranil Pan, Chief Economist at Yes Bank. Welcome to the show, gentlemen, and always a pleasure to speak to you. Mr. Pan, let me first come to you as well and take the first question with you. Initially the anticipation was that India did have a 20 to 21 day window to negotiate, and that is what everyone was looking at. Now that tariffs do come into effect tomorrow, maybe it gets rolled out later, no one knows yet. What is your read of the situation, number one, and do any of your estimates in terms of growth, GDP, etc. change from here on?
Well, on your second question, we are not really changing our GDP numbers yet because I think the critical issue is, yes, the tariff takes hold. But on the other side, we also have a GST regime that is coming on. So we are talking about two different segments of the economy, one being very significantly negatively affected, which is the export segment, and the downside implication of that on employment in the country, because most of the exports to the US that we are talking about is also labor intensive exports. So there is a downside implication in terms of the employment as well as the purchasing power of the population. But on the other side, we are likely to neutralize that to a certain extent by the GST regime. So it's a very difficult story at this point in time, and there are two diverging sort of pulls that are present in the economy on the growth side. And from that perspective, we have still not altered our headline GDP number, though some of the internal numbers may actually be changing. The other important issue is that while the GST positively impacts from a price perspective the services sector, we still don't have tariffs on the services sector, and that restricts itself to the goods sector. So that should be another enabler in terms of the headline GDP number that we look at. In terms of the overall hit purely from the tariff, we are estimating a 0.2 to 0.4% sort of hit, depending on about a 20% sort of exports to the US from India being critically impacted. That's the first round hit that we are estimating.
0.2 to 0.4% in terms of GDP hit, Mr. Pan, is basis 25% tariffs, so you're saying basis 50% tariffs?
So it's basis the 25% tariff. It's very difficult to assess what happens in terms of the 50% tariff. I think other guests on your panel will be more sort of suitable to answer this particular question. So at 25% tariff, what I've heard from exporters is that they'll possibly be able to absorb a certain bit, and they would not really canceling orders. But the situation may drastically change with the 50% tariff, and therefore I would expect other guests on your show to actually sort of pin down in terms of the sectoral perspective how it impacts the overall performance of the sector.
Absolutely. So that's going to be more important. In fact, let me also get in Ravikant Kapur, Vice President FIEO. Ravikant, welcome to the show. My question coming to you is, negotiations have been going on. You have, as an association, you have been in touch with the Commerce Ministry as well. What is it that you're picking up now from an impact perspective, representing the exporters? Do you think there is a way forward from here on?
There's always a way forward. But I believe that we have to take it one by one. We have to look at the current situation as it is. It is really a major disaster for exporters to the US. It's still a fresh wound. The pain will set in. It will take some days and weeks, probably some months, if they do not come to any settlement. And for the exporters, we do not see any alternative, especially the ones who are levied the 50% reciprocal plus the earlier normal duties. It is something that we have to now look at: damage containment, hand-holding by the government. The first thing that's going to hit you is what do you do with all your inventories? What do you do with your documents which are of goods on the high seas? It's going to lead into a kind of a financial situation where a moratorium will definitely be called for and should be done within a day, because people need to know what they're going to do. It's also going to affect employment in a big way, because the ones that are paying duty are apparel, they are leather, they are carpets, they are shoes and chemicals. So these are the ones where there are big employment running into crores of people. So how are they going to be managing it? And a lot of this is going to the US, which has been a primary market. Employment, I just mentioned, is another problem. Cash flows have also to be seen. Government will need to come to ease the stress. I don't like looking to government for subsidies, but in these matters of need, they are the ones who have to come forward and do something. But at the same time, let me tell you, in spite of all these things, even a few days ago we were thinking, we still need to stand by our government, and we'll take it on the chin as it comes. We do not want any nation in the world to think that they can split India and they can make us feel the pain. Whatever it is, we will have to endure it. These are brave words, but we would need support from the government to see that no lasting damage is done, because you will need the same exporters to come forward.
Absolutely. I think this is something which is important. In fact, let me take in a question with Mr. R.K Vij, President Emeritus, Textile Association. Mr. Vij, how do you think is the textile industry prepared now, taking into consideration that the tariffs do kick in? Because the concern over here is that US as a country does have alternatives apart from India when you talk about textile as a sector. Here, the question now is India becomes less competitive. Is the solution to move to other markets? Or do you think the quantum that India used to export to the US as well will go down? The China plus one strategy, all of that is on the backyards now.
You are very right that with this 50% tariff on Indian product, specifically textile, the textile is this gives a employment after agriculture. Is the maximum employment comes from textile, and of course we are exporting to US $10 billion of carpet, home textiles, knitted fabric, woven fabric. That is a situation is there. The big markets in India is Panipat, Ludhiana, Bhadoi, Surat, and major is Tirupur. From Tirupur, we are about 60 to 70% of our cotton garment we are exporting at a price. So, of course, that problem is very difficult. But we Indian, we textile are will overcome this problem. As during the COVID, we overcome this problem. We will overcome this problem. How to overcome this problem? There are two parts are there. One part, what we as a textile owners we have to do, and what we need to support the government only for 3, 4, 5 months. So the first point is that what we should do, we should find out the new market immediately. We should develop new designs. We will reduce our cost. We will find out the domestic market. Our domestic market is very, very strong. So we will, because if 10 to 12 billion in a year, so 1 billion per month, 3 billion, we have to consume, export our goods are to consume in the domestic market. Now, what we expect from the government? We are thankful to our respected Prime Minister that the long pending GST problem is going to solve in the month of September. The 12% GST rate they are abolishing, so 5% and 18% will be there. So textile already in the today's newspaper was there, the 5% textile will come. My only submission from because in a textile, we have 25 units all over India and they are giving us the feedback. The textile comes in the two parts. One part is textile industry and one major part is the man-made fiber which come under the chemical ministry. The textile ministry, the raw material is viscose and cotton. And for man-made fiber, which is world over, it is growing. And we have to grow in India also. The basic raw material is PTA MEG, which comes under the chemical ministry. So we want only one GST rate. So there should be no inversion of duty, which we are facing from the last 7 years, because we are buying at 18% and we are selling at 12%.
Got it.
So this is the we request. The second thing we request the MSMEs.
Stay with us, because I understand, from what you're also saying, that GST benefits that do come in the reforms that you are talking about as well, they will somewhere help the exporters counter the impact of tariffs. But that's with the textile sector. Let's look at even the seafood sector as a whole. We have Mr. Pawan Kumar, the president of the Seafood Exporters Association, joining in. Mr. Kumar, if I have to talk about seafood exports as well, companies like Avanti Feeds, Apex Frozen, Waterbase, these are from the listed names. They have exposure to the tune of almost around 14 to 60% that comes in from the US markets. Even there are unlisted players as well. How are you looking at the industry shielding itself from the tariffs now, taking into consideration it's into effect tomorrow?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everybody. Before we dive before I answer your question, the first thing I would like to say, as seafood exporters, we 100% support our Prime Minister's mission in India first. The country's interest comes first, and we as an Exporters Association, we 100% support our Prime Minister. We are with him in this fight. Yes, as one of my panelists said, we'll take all these challenges head on, and we will find solutions for them. To answer your question, definitely yes, the seafood exporters are impacted. The total exports of seafood across the world is about $8 billion, of which $3 billion goes to US market. That is about 40% of our market is US market. And that is impacted. And this, of course, the people talk about this 27th deadline, but the 27th is for containers which are on board and which are on board on the mother vessel. That means our deadline has started about 2 weeks ago. So in the last 2 weeks, most of the shipments, all the buyers have put all the shipments on hold, and there are no shipments which are going to US. Yes, this is a big hit for the seafood industry. And to tell you, seafood industry employs about 28 million people, either directly or indirectly. So this is a labor-intensive business. And we expect the government to do a little bit of hand-holding so that, we tide over this kind of, I don't say a crisis, a scenario which is developed over the last couple of months.
Okay, that's interesting, but let me, you spoke about the support that the industry wants to give Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, with that, a couple of relief measures that are in for the exporters also, which are on the cards. In fact, one of my colleagues has got this exclusive story where the Commerce Ministry, along with a few key economic ministers, will be meeting the PMO at 3 p.m. today. And the meeting is to focus on the possible relief measures for exporters, and this will propose export promotion mission status. That's the review is going to be likely because the outlay on that has been increased to 25,000 crores, which is still lying with the expenditure side of the ministries. Taking that into consideration, Mr. Pan, how do you look at it? Do you think your GST benefits, the other relief measures that are being worked out for exporters will be able to negate the impact in terms of growth?
Obviously, fully not, because in the sense, if I hear representatives here on your show also, for example, the marine products, there's a very significant sort of outflow that happens in terms of exports to the US. You can't expect the whole amount to be absorbed domestically. We also heard the textile segment. Now, textile segment, my understanding is, and I may stand corrected, there are certain textile manufacturers in India who cater to very principally the European and the US markets, and their standards, quality, design, and therefore pricing is totally different than what can be absorbed by the Indian market. So it's a very sort of difficult scenario, I would say, if you are expecting the whole amount of the loss of exports to be converted into Indian demand. Now, typically, this is a pressure that has come, which is in respect to the prices. And therefore, we should attempt to reduce the price pressure on the exporters if we have to even today, look at exports going forward. So, and I think all the economic agents here needs to participate, starting from the exporter as well as the consumer, in terms of dividing the total cost that has to be borne by the exporting sector. To that extent, I think the duty drawback scheme for the exporters may actually be brought back. We can be looking at interest subventions. The larger issues in terms of newer markets, upping the productivity, and therefore looking at more value add within the export sector, while in a longer term perspective definitely serves the purpose, but can't really do much in terms of taking out the immediate pain for the exporters.
Understood, understood. We are running short of time, but Mr. Vij, your closing comments, 30 seconds.
Ma'am, I'm just telling you, 25% penalty, we want the government, at least for the small manufacturers of the government should give a duty drawback of 10 to 15% only for a small period of 4 to 5 months who are exporting to USA. This is the one thing, and they should release some amount of liquidity to us and refund our GST, which has blocked in our books.
And that is something I think all the industries will want as well. Mr. Kapur, anything that you would want to add?
Yes, ma'am. I would like to say that we have to think also long term. Immediately finding new markets is not so easy. But the Atmanirbharta that the PM has been talking about is very important. We are already talking about energy, and I think that is the number one problem that we are facing today, and that is the grave one on the whole charge today. We have been talking of using ethanol, electric vehicles, solar, wind. We would like to add nuclear to go up in a big way. And also, lastly, we are blessed with a lot of coal reserves. I think we need to look at that and start using our coal. At least President Trump has been talking of green coal, whatever that means. But we must certainly look at that as an energy source, and we should not shy away from it. If nations around the world want to pressurize us on oil, let's go back to coal and see through research and development what we can do with it. I think having an energy security in-house or inland is very, very important also.
Absolutely. I think and lots that the government is trying to do as well. But thank you, gentlemen, so much for joining us on the show, running out of time.